It's day one of a strike by personal support workers who are asking for what they call a living wage. They say a maximum of $14.50 an hour for the duties they perform just isn't cutting it. A report to the hospital board says the only way to balance the budget without additional funding would be to make certain service cuts, and that would compromise the hospital's regional and academic role. Gallagher personally feels there'll be no development in the Ring of Fire for at least 10 years, and he says the elephant in the room is the Anishinaabe Nation. The Ontario Fire Marshal has been on the scene at the James Street Swing Bridge since 9 a.m. Wednesday morning. He says there are still no answers as to the cause and circumstances leading up to the fire. Both the chief and the mayor say these recent events are a wake-up call and add more than ever a joint meeting between the two communities is needed, something that hasn't happened formally since 2011. Dennis Ward, TBT News. This is just one of the many videos and pictures that have been posted online of a fire that broke out on the James Street Swing Bridge. 24 firefighters as well as police from various agencies attended the blaze that continued to flare up for hours. Fire Chief John Hay says it was going to take a while to declare the fire completely out, with flare-ups due to the amount of grease and oil on the wooden structure. He says the extent of the damage is unknown at this time.
We expect probably a quarter of the bridge may have had some contact with fire, may have been impinged. We're not sure of that right now. We do know that it's the north abutment of the bridge that was impacted, where it meets the roadbed.
It was more than 2 hours before some firefighters were allowed to leave the scene. There were no injuries to fire personnel or civilians. Hay says there were no people around when they arrived, but huge crowds gathered to get a look at the scene. The fire chief says some policing agencies will be on both sides of the structure to secure the bridge and control traffic through the evening and into tomorrow.
We're gonna have both lanes of the traffic are gonna be closed certainly until sometime tomorrow, probably well after sunrise, until we can get some people down here some experts down here engineers to look at the bridge.
The fire chief won't speculate at this time what the cause of the fire may have been. Dennis Ward, TBT News. Constable Joshua Berube hops on a city transit bus just like any other passenger, but he's got a better view of the road as he stands up front with the driver. Riding the bus gives him an elevated view of unsuspecting drivers who may be on the phone or texting. Traffic Sergeant Glenn Porter says dedicated cell phone users or texters know to be on the lookout for police cars, but this method catches them off guard.
They're watching for cruisers, and they're not going to do that behavior when a police officer is around. So by riding on the bus, the officer gets to look down into the vehicles that are stopped beside the bus or approaching, and we simply have a police officer following. A radio call is made, and the second officer makes the stop after the first officer sees the violation.
About a half a dozen officers were assisted by CN and CP Rail police officers for the crackdown. Porter says some drivers were quite upset with the new approach, but calls distracted driving a huge problem, and tactics like this will continue to be used until drivers get the message.
You're not going to be able to avoid being charged in the future. The police are going to take some initiative. They're going to use some innovative and imaginative techniques.
Today's operation led to 11 tickets being handed out for people using their cell phone or texting while driving. Another 4 people received tickets for not wearing their seatbelt, and there were 5 other infractions also noticed. Porter says these operations will continue in the future. Dennis Ward, TBT News.